So we're going to start in on the template. I need to check the files, but in the fall of 2015, I think, was the landing gear assembly that frustrated the heck out of me. I never quite got it to work, and I started down the blocks path, and then it was just eating up too much time, and I never came back to it. So we're going to generate our drawing template and do a couple of quick blocks tonight, see how far we get. And then going into that landing gear, we're going to go into the assembly, use the layout, generate some blocks, and look at the interaction of those components and see where the cam action is not working correctly. All right, so I'll send you the link or make sure that it shows up in Canvas that you guys can get to it. All right, so for setting up our own drawing template, then we're going to go pick up a standard SolidWorks template and have that to start with. To get into the background, then I'm going to right-click and we're editing the sheet format. And once I've edited that sheet format, now I have access to all of these items. So one of the things, the drawing number is, this is really the file name. This is the drawing file name of the current document. So it's not really a drawing number. It's not really something that we're using. I'm going to stay with the size. So I'm going to start dragging some of these out that I want to keep together. So material and properties, finish and properties do not scale. Those are good to have as a group. Tolerances, and I'm going to end up combining some of these, so we'll build that in. Interpret, got to have the proprietary and confidential. I don't use the next assembly and used on, and we'll probably go to drawn by, maybe created by and drawn by, or modeled by, and then detailed, but not really anything in there. And the description, not really. I do want the weight or mass, so kind of pull that one out. Scale is good to have, so sheet 1 of 1 is good. Oh, and the rev and the placeholder that isn't showing anything is good to have. Oh, sure, now you throw it out there. Now I lost it. Okay, so if I window pick, I'm going to be able to see all those little boxes, all those little items. So kind of put that one up there. All right, so what that does for me then is everything down here that I'm not using can go away. All right, and then let's see, this has some heavier line weights, or looks like it has some heavier line weights. So if I was setting this up from scratch, then what is the one that I would be looking for? Is there anything? All right, so I already added line color, line thickness, and line style to my sketching, to the sketching tab. And if we expand out, see those? No. That sure looks like it's thicker geometry, so we'll have to see if it shows up when we go to generate our border. Okay, so I'm not sure what I want this to look like, but I need it to have enough spacing. So I'm going to pull in. We're going to make that vertical sidebar kind of drawing template. Advantage being that we have this nice kind of square open space to work in. Okay, so now I got to take and organize all of this back into here. All right, so the first thing is, after telling you all semester not to use parameters in setting up this drawing, we're going to use parameters. All right, so the x dimension at about 8.6, let's drop that to 8. Well, maybe that's a little bit much. How about 8 1/4? All right, so that should give me a pretty decent window. And then if I put in dimensions, I'll have to hide the dimension. So after telling you not to use fix and setting up the drawing template, this is a good place to use fix. All right, because what it does is I got coincident on the endpoints, but then I don't want to mess with the dimensions. I don't want to mess with the additional hassle of hiding and showing and going through that process. So one fix basically puts it in place, and if I select it, I'm going to see that anchor. If I go to display delete relations and go all in this sketch, I'm going to see that fixed, and I may have a couple of, I'll end up with a couple of fixed items before we get through. And then as long as I recognize that that was the strategy for my template, I'm going to be able to go back and make adjustments, make those changes. Right, so I want the same line thickness. So under customize and commands, line format, you're going to have colors, thicknesses, and styles that you can modify within the drawing or within your geometry. So highlighting, line thickness, and then it comes up with a little chart. That about looks like it. All right, so we're going to call that one good. All right, so now I have to sort this mess that I made. So the first one is the file name. And since I did not preserve an annotation for that one, I'm going to have to insert it. So it goes to note. And this is the drawing name. And the question is always, do I try to put all of that in one box and manage the fonts, or leave them as separate? So what I haven't found, or at least haven't run across, is it would be nice to be able to group those. But there isn't, as far as I know, there isn't a grouping function that says keep those items together. If I were to make it a block, which is kind of where we're going with some of these items, then it would be tied within the drawing as a drawing block, or as a whatever. All right, so that font is a little on the large size at 24, so we'll drop it back to 14. Okay, 16. A little bit bigger, reposition it. And that looks pretty good. So I didn't see a file name. So I do want a model name or a file name, so we're going to drop in another one. Let's go ahead and copy. I can do a Control-C, pick a new location, do a Control-V. And the issue with this vertical kind of positioning is that a long file name is going to run off the sheet pretty quick. All right, so we've got to kind of manage or watch our the naming convention. All right, so if I insert the next note, this is going to go back up to 16, and this is going to be a link to property. I don't have enough. Let's see, if we go to model found here, drawing view specified in sheet properties, or selected component or other drawing view. Well, we'll start with that one, and then we'll have to see what we end up with, except I don't have any file properties generated. I haven't brought anything in, and the part is just kind of hanging there. So I really just need to make this a placeholder. Oh, there we go, SolidWorks file name for the model found here. All right, so it didn't show up under file properties, but we're able to get it under the property name. Okay, so big old long string property sheet, everything. This is going to reduce down to whatever the model name is once we insert a model. All right, so we have the drawn, and the drawn has a typically a name. Right, so if I hover over that, drawn by, and then a date. And like I said, we may go back through and revise that to a modeled by that would look for the associated field in the part and then pull it over so that if I model it and I drew the or made the detail, then my information would show up in both of those. Let's see. I'll go ahead and place the rev, and somewhere over here, there we go, is still the revision, which we need to pull over from the model, or do we revise from the drawing? So that's always been kind of an issue of I made a change to the model, it comes over into the drawing, which one gets revised or gets the revision level attached to it. So lately I've leaned towards that the revision would actually be at the drawing level under its custom properties, that we would create a sheet. I would put in the drawn or detailed by, set up a revision level, go through the process out of the drawing, and manage it in its own custom properties. So still have some questions to go through. The weight. Okay, so that could be a little bit higher. Weight or mass. We can kind of place the scale, the sheet. Oh, and that was my drawn that I just dropped that on top of. There we go. All right, and maybe that is the upper portion of my template. So we'll pull in another. Go back to the select. Its position 8.25. Let's make it a nice round number, 6 inches. I'm going to go ahead and fix one end, and then we'll set a line thickness matching the others. Okay, those are a little heavy. I'm already getting kind of annoyed with them, so we'll see. It might stay, it might get kicked out. All right, so I want to leave enough room, sheet 1 of, and to 99 if we need it. Scale can go up pretty big as well, so we'll leave a little spacing there. So the A size sheet can come in as a group next to the rev. All right, so we'll kind of place those. Drawing number was associated with one of those. I'll save that one just in case I need another annotation somewhere. So inside of this this grouping, I'm going to get rid of the proprietary and confidential portion, and then just go ahead and insert it into at the same paragraph as what we were, so it's tied together, that I don't have to do all of that separation, all of those items moving individually. So if I go put the name in, and of course it's in all caps, and then we'll insert the name here. All right, so now this moves that as a group. All right, so within that group, I still have the ability to do some minor justification. The problem is that it's justifying everything. All right, so in that case, we can do an underline. I can set the, I believe I can, well, I've got the bold, so let's bump that up one. Nope, that was too big. All right, and then as far as the spacing and everything, we have a little bit wider to work with, so I just have to pull those out. There's no real typesetting function that is doing the word wrap or doing anything like that. We're just going to kind of fudge it in there as we go. Okay, so that cleans it up a little bit. And what else could we put in? Don't really need anything in that mix, so time for another line. We'll put in the separator. Okay, so its spacing, come down to the parameters, see what 1 1/4 looks like. That's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and set my spacing. We'll fix. Go back to the line thickness. And it's starting to kind of come together. Alright, so the materials. And so the do not scale should stay with those. The material and finish, that would be something that's kind of important. So we'll put those as a group there. And then our tolerance chart. And I'm not a big interpret by ANSI Y14 point whatever, 20 whatever. Yeah, I got those reversed. So that tells you how much go with. So if you are going to hold a specific standard, then put it in. But really, it's company standard, organizational standard that we're going to. So first of all, make it readable. Adjust what needs to be in place, and then we'll worry about getting into the standards. So I'm going to go ahead and dump that one. And on the dimensions are in inches. Well, not necessarily. Oh, okay. So for the tolerances they are, but we may end up with some metric in there. Fractional, we need to be generous, either a 32nd or a 16th. So we'll go with 32nd. Angular machine bend plus or minus 1 degree. I need a degree symbol, so under the center line, but under our symbols we can get to the degree. Let's see, is there space in there? No. And on the bend, well, let's go plus or minus 2 degrees, just to be a little more generous. 2 decimal places plus or minus 15 thousandths. 3 decimal places plus or minus 5 thousandths. And we're going to probably end up using them at some point. So a 4-place decimal. Let's see, we need the plus minus symbol. And I go plus or minus 1 because that's still within the range of what I can measure within our company. It makes sense to be able to inspect, and also that the machines will realistically be able to hold that tolerance without doing anything special. Right? So if it's a higher level tolerance and it's not specifically called out with a dimension, then it reverts back to the plus or minus 1, or I can go through and on that particular dimension it'll be plus or minus a couple of tenths, plus or minus half a thou, plus or minus whatever. All right, we go through and detail some of those out. All right, so do not scale the drawing. Let's see, which one was that? Need to highlight middle center, bottom right. That's a little scary. What was, well, I grabbed one and I'm not sure what the note is. So, since it's not giving me any hints and I'm not missing anything yet, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. And then this will become a notes. And we're going to set that up as a separate section. So on one side, I've really streamlined. I've kind of butchered butchered our template, but hopefully I've cleaned it up enough to make it worthwhile. So 4.19, and we're going to fix one more time and set a line thickness. And the do not scale can go up a little bit, so moving out, we'll center that a little bit more.
Would you want to make the font any bigger in those? Take up some of that space?
Well, that's always the question. Is the default Century Gothic font for SolidWorks is kind of an all-purpose font. It's personal preference. I mean, as you go through, I kind of leave it at the Century Gothic font rather than chasing, and then things that need to be bolder or need to jump out at you, that's where you place the font size. Having open space that doesn't feel so cluttered, that's kind of an advantage too. So again, when you sit down to do any kind of revision or the sidebar, we ran into several drawings that just even having the title block across the bottom, it just didn't fit or didn't lay out well. So having this vertical sidebar as opposed to the horizontal bottom title block or a top or whatever, having some of those options is just kind of a neat option. So we're not going through it to the nth detail, but that gives you a real kind of quick, a starter to set your template. In addition to what we did last semester, building out the templates and getting it started. All right, so inside of the notes then, I guess I should have kept one more, but annotation, note, and I'll go ahead and place. And nothing really in there. Let's see, it won't let me. Usually I want to kind of scale it, but every time I move, then it goes back. All right, so that's decent size. And I want to set a title block. Is it title block field? Did they change that? All right, well, let's go ahead and set it, and then we'll figure it out. All right, so everything in this title block up to this point is related back to a property, is related to something in the drawing, related to something in the model. And to change it, I have to edit the sheet format and go in and do whatever change. So when I go into this title block table, what it says is I want to pick up an area that I can double click at the top level and type something in here and have that instant edit, instant access to that portion of the title block. So if I think of something on the note, reference part number, blah, 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 and the vendor and whatever information that is kind of supplementary, that would be where we put it into the note. So the text field then is where we set the annotation, so note 1, and the tooltip is notes or whatever. All right, so we go ahead and accept that, and then we get out of the sheet format, and the test is, well, let's see, did it allow me to edit it? There we go. Uh-oh. I'm typing and it's showing me that I'm typing, but I'm not seeing anything. There we go. Here's my notes. Well, okay, if I could see it, I probably would have been able to tell I wasn't typing very well. All right, so when that goes to print, that shouldn't be in blue, but let's check real quick. Oh, let's get out of that. There we go. All right, so while we were editing it, it was showing up as highlighted in blue, and then it comes back. All right. So we get through that process. We are going to refine this. We're going to distribute it to the design group, and they're going to beat it up and tell you what they like and they don't like, and things that need to be included or not included. And it's going to take a week or two to shake it out and go through that process. All right. Once you have it set, you probably won't touch it for another year or two. And then somebody will pop up and say, something changed, policy changed. We need to add a disclaimer. We need to add a something else. And at that point, you're back in and have to kind of remember this process, go through the process to make that update. All right, so after the fact, we come back and I would like to have a date stamp on here. So I edit the sheet format, we put in another note, And down here we can go to a file property. And do I want the date stamp for the current document, for the model? And let's see, we're going to go with the long date. And it is set to show the full date and the time. And what this, and where's my time? Okay, I saw the checkbox, but I sure didn't get it. Okay, so let's double click on that one. Try that again. Alright, so let's see, short date, no. Long date, and it's set to show the time, but it's the evaluated value. Oh, okay, so let's go to the last save date. There we go. Long, short, and show time. Okay, so what this does is it puts this date stamp on the drawing that if there is a revision discrepancy, if there is I printed out two of these and one was saved before the other and there's only a 10-minute difference, but that one made it into distribution or made it to a revision. Okay, at the very last, I can say, okay, look in the bottom corner and what's the timestamp? Something along those lines. All right, so I don't necessarily need that one to be really big, so we can go to 8. But then if I really don't need it to be very big, I can come over here and say, make it 50 thousandths. All right, so as long as the printer's capable, it's not going to take up a lot of space and may have to get out the magnifying glass to read it, but I know if we know it's there, then it's something that's identifiable. All right. So, again, we're going to have to go through a couple of more revisions on this. I didn't really want notes to be saved with the template. And this is going to be a two-step process. We're going to save the sheet format. And if we have the other folder set up, our SOLIDWORKS system folder, this is going to go into the SOLIDWORKS system folder, and both the sheet format and the drawing template are going to go into the same folder. By default, SOLIDWORKS is going to send you to the SOLIDWORKS go down 10 levels and identify where those locations are. So, nope, I didn't want to do a save as. I wanted to save the sheet format. It takes me to program data SOLIDWORKS sheet format. All right, so program data is one of those files that you either have to be administrator or you go into the organize and to the layout, or no, folder and search options. And I can't do it from the save as, but you go into Windows Explorer, you would navigate to folder and search options. The second tab will allow you to show these hidden system folders. Program data and app data are a couple of those that don't naturally show up. Right, so to be able to get to this in the first place, you have to know that it's there and how to navigate to it. All right, so next in the group is that I changed those locations, and we're going to go to my SOLIDWORKS system files, to my SOLIDWORKS templates, since I still haven't corrected my spelling. And this is going to be my MCC A-land side. All right, so sidebar. All right, we go ahead and save that. So what this does is put this into the properties. We should see that it is now available as a standard sheet size in the properties. It does not put it in the new. So whichever one of these that I saved that sheet format in, this is not a drawing template. So let me dust off some brain cells here. The sheet format is an SLD-DRT drawing template, or drawing sheet, no. I just looked at it too. Save sheet format. SLD, DRT, solid drawing. Yeah. And then the other one's a DRW DOT, which makes more sense. So anyway, I shouldn't think about such things. All right, so we're going to do the save as drawing template. And the drawing template defaulted back to the 2014, which is still fine. We're going to jump up to our system folder. And the nice thing about doing the system folder, nice thing about putting this out onto a Dropbox, putting it out into something that has that access, then on my laptop I can point to the same Dropbox folder. Then on the desktops, or everybody can point without having to have an extensive network. All right, just a fast internet connection. Faster internet connection. And with the synchronization, it pushes and pulls these updates. So instead of having to go to everybody's computer and make the update, everybody's pulling off of the same information just as if it was a network. All right, so I named that, and okay, it didn't like something there, so let's try again. So let's go with that name, but backspace over, and go ahead and save. All right, so at this point, I have everything in here that I want to see. I don't want to add anything else, and this is still open as the drawing template. And I already have an issue with my justification. So first change, edit, sheet format. Open that up. We're going to go from center to left, and then I have to reposition. And we're already a little bit long, but oh well. All right, so same thing. I made a change. I have to save the sheet format. Except now, when I get back to it, except now it's in the list. Okay, so it overwrites the sheet format. And then file save as for the drawing template. That one actually went back where it was supposed to, so we'll go ahead and hit save. Yes, we want to replace it. And then we're going to close. All right, so now we're into the testing phase. I've got a basic rough draft going. Generally happy with it. I'm going to need to bring in some of those models that we set the custom properties from the very beginning. We set some of those custom properties, we bring it in, and we start refining. So this shows up in my template, or it shows up in my template. And the first test I want to do is, does the sheet format add a second sheet? Well, in my options, I've told it to ask me each time, because the system, or the making sure that this one is embedded into the drawing template is not always clear. So you end up adding a sheet and it puts in the landscape, and then I have to go change it, and I go back and forth. Sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and say, let me select. All right, so let's go see what happens if I did that in the correct sequence. And under drawings, and then we have to find it. Align automatically shows sheet format dialog when adding new sheet. So if I uncheck that under the drawing, then go back in and add sheet format, I have the A landscape. All right, so I haven't successfully tied that to the drawing template. And that's another one of those, I haven't done this in 3 or 4 months, so now I have to remember how to get it embedded, and that's probably why I turned on the ask me each time rather than chasing this. All right, but I should be able to, under the properties, set that as the current and change. No, that doesn't sound familiar, but we'll go ahead and go ahead and delete it. And then I'm going to save the drawing template one more time. Nope. All right. So now I get to go back to my help file, go back to my technical references, try to remember what I did last time, or I just come up here and go back to, not customize, back to the options and the drawings and say, just go ahead and ask me. All right, so yeah, didn't know there was going to be a quiz today, so I didn't study for it. But there is a process to make sure that that sheet format gets attached to the drawing template, and as we add additional sheets, it goes to that group. Or in the case of you want to have a drawing template as all of the information, everything you never wanted to know about this part as the first sheet, and then a second sheet format that is actually for your drawings. So you can have these different levels of sheet formats going forward into the further into the document. So on that end of it, it's just kind of sitting down and mapping out what you need and where you want this to go. All right, so things that I forgot, and reason that it's probably in the not looking. Let me move it. All right, so right-clicking up here for the drawings layer, and layers are similar to AutoCAD. In this respect, that we can set line weights, we can set colors, and we can also set print that it will be able to print or hide show for various items. So we want a dims layer, and we'll put a nice nice color on the dims. I want a center layer, and typically my center layer is center lines and center marks, and that's usually the one I reserve for the really annoying magenta. And what else do we put in there? What's that?
Hidden.
Oh, hidden lines? No, they do those automatically. Hidden lines are not something that is because the views are being created with them. SolidWorks manages hidden lines. We're not having to manually put in anything that's a hidden line. So in that respect, where AutoCAD you may have, I've seen drawing templates in AutoCAD that had 40 or 50 layers to manage every single detail to be able to turn things on and off. My layers in SolidWorks are about 5, 4, okay, 3. So it's minimalist. We're not building layers out for every level or every piece of geometry. All right, so a couple layers that we can add in. Something else that I just added to my template, so I have to save it. So what I need to do is find the chart or the list that says these are things that need to go in the sheet format, and these are things that really need to go into the drawing templates. So we will see where that gets, and didn't go far enough. Okay, so close it, new. I have my center, and I just saved it with center as the default. So probably need to be at dims one more time. And it's not jumping back this time, all right. And close it, and new test. All right, so dims is my current layer. We're ready to start bringing some stuff in to see what gets generated. So we generated a couple parts earlier. I'm not going to go try to find anything. So under the center bushing, I know we added some previous items that had these in it. So what did they say? Center bushing. No, they didn't put material on this one. So let's pick a brass or a bronze. Commercial bronze. That'll really fill up the title block as a test. Commercial bronze, you. Okay, so close. We'll go over to the custom properties. Because I set it over here, it's going to show up as material. This is kind of our search or okay, and then my initials. All right, so now I'm testing for the alignment between the custom properties that we generated over to what's going to populate into the title block. Okay, so I go ahead and apply it. I hit save. We go back to the window, and the choice is, do I go to model view? And picking on model view, if I want to stay in this property manager interface, then we can start command when creating new drawing. All right, and it will default back to here as opposed to going to the view palette. I probably still go back to the model view because that's the way it's been for so long. Going forward, the view palette has some pretty good advantages, mainly being able to see what you're picking, what you're dragging in. So we're going to pull in the front, go into the projection, and drag those out. Okay, so it brought the center marks in on this the dims layer, which is not surprising. Under the options, and this is another one of those places I'm not sure exactly how this is determined, but if I pick those two center and as the default for the center line center marks, it still comes into the current layer. So I'm not sure where the hierarchy is that it bypasses this to go to this. All right, but someday I'll get it figured out, and then we'll change it. Okay, so that gets switched over to center marks. Just the fact that they're in there and ready to go, that's not that big of a deal because I don't expect to have that many center marks to begin with. All right, so under the annotations, we have a center line annotation, or I can come over to the center line tool and I could draw a center line. So I want to be in the center layer this time. Annotation is the center line. Pick on that that view, that face, and it's going to drop in that that center line through the middle of the part. All right. So what I don't have is if I wanted a bolt circle, is just like we did in the drawings. I need to go to the sketch. And we'll pick up that center point, go to that center point, and it shows me the bolt circle, but I still need to make it for construction. All right, so I have something a little bit more functional to work from.
Can you set the line style on the layer, and that would just do that?
So you have the style, you have the thickness. Is there something else hiding over here? No. So yeah, you do have the style and the thickness.
You can set it to long dash, short dash.
Oh, in the defaults for the and that to a certain extent depends on the scale as well. Now I lost it. Where did it go? Document properties, center lines, marks, scale by view scale, center, size of the marks, extension lines, those types of things. Go through and you know, again, way more in here than I really want to mess with. If it looks decent, I'm not really going to chase it too far. All right, so those are reasonable. Have our view. Material has the same issue. All right, so do I want it to right justify and then come all the way out into the part, or just go ahead and run it off of off the edge of the drawing like I did those? All right, so that's the testing, diagnosing, debugging phases. Okay, if this grows a little bit, shrinks a little bit, and the other side of this was, well, maybe I need to go back in and keep in mind that picking one of these views, I could possibly change the orientation and do something a little bit, even though this is the landscape, I could do the title block going vertical, but that's kind of a pain getting all of these to go 90 degrees. All right, but it is in the realm that we can change those notes to those values. All right, so again, we're kind of just getting into the scratching the surface of what we can do with the templates, building those out. Having something that's kind of unique. What we didn't do here was insert a logo, but logos will typically, let's see if I can find something real quick. Well, let's see, where would we put it if we did have it? Okay, so let's open this with Paint. So we have Paint. Going to select the window. Oh, I think I just grabbed something. Nope, still didn't quite get it to select. And we're going to copy, fly that out, and then paste. Maybe. Okay, so that embeds it in the drawing. So the recommendation is that you kind of pay attention that this is showing in Paint as a 27.5 kilobyte. That's a pretty reasonable amount. First one of these that I did, I took the big logo and shrunk it down, and it was still a 1 meg graphic, or 100, whatever size. And so after the first run through, I got to 10 or 15, 25 sheets, and wow, why is this thing taking so long? Every one of these sheets with a 1 meg graphic on it was having to load. Why is my drawing file 25 meg? It shouldn't have been more than a meg or two. All right, so we can bring those into the grouping, define some of those other items in the group. All right. So we've got
embedding that graphic in that document. Then.
Pardon
It's
the.
actually embedding that graphic.
Yes,
inside
it
that
is. We're pasting it, and it is consuming it. It's not treating it as an external object that it's referencing. It is now part of the title block. So it needs to be small, that it prints well at whatever scale, and it's readable, but not overly done. All right. So one of the blocks that we didn't draw or didn't include is typically you want your first angle or third angle projection. So let's go ahead and just generate a block real quick. And so that typically amounts to, well, probably not a pink one in this case. Let's stay with the format or none. Oh, and I'm still drawing on it, so I need to switch back. And let's see, those are going to be equal. So we have the same types of relations. Let's see, midpoint. And midpoint. Okay, and then my cone shape. And I'm not doing great on this, but get the idea. Yeah, I need to work on that a little bit. Construction. Yeah, I need to work on that a lot. Okay, midpoint to the construction coincident. No, I didn't want that to be an intersection. There we go. Nope, I still missed it. Okay. And grab the wrong one too. Alright, so close enough. No, it just got lost. Alright, so my first angle projection, we generate whatever the symbol is going to be, collect all of the items, and then right click, and we're going to make block. Okay, so the decision, when that comes in, we need an insertion point, or typically need an insertion point. So it's going to give us, and we'll move both of those for the manipulator. Layout sketch block, no, and go ahead and save. All right, so it adds a folder for the block, rebuild, and right now this is a local block. You know, so if it was something that we created, or we had a specialty symbol that we needed, we go ahead and embed it, but it only exists in this drawing at this stage. So within our SolidWorks system files, we would probably have come back over here, and if I was going to generate more than a few of these, we'll have a blocks folder. Okay, so go ahead and create that. Then right-clicking on the block, we're going to save the block out and go up one level, go to the blocks, and then this is going to be my third angle symbol. And what's that?
Spelling third run.
Oh, well, considering it's still on the templates, it might as well be a
It's English, leave it alone.
It's a thread. It's a thread angle. That's perfect. All right, so let's see if I rename it, if it has any issues being renamed. All right, so we save that out now. Once it's a block, it moves as a group, so I don't have to have those different sizes. We can look at the scaling. So the block scale can be stretch or shrink, so advantage. The issue that I ran into, and I don't know if it's still the case, but we'll have to try it out, is if I insert this block into the template though and save it with the template, then it had some confusion going back out and retrieving that every time. So the advantage of the block is that if I edited the block and made a change or updated the scale or found a mistake, then next time the template open, it should update it. But there was also a warning that came up with it. So let's see, do we need to save any? We won't worry about the logo, but let's see what happens if we save that in the with the template. All right, so new bar. We have the materials over there. The note could get a little bit smaller, but let's just go ahead and insert. And then now I have to find it. Let's see. No. There it was. Insert annotations all the way at the bottom, almost off of the screen block. We're going to browse. Go to the system files, go to the blocks, bring in the third angle. place it, and go ahead and scale it. And accept. Did it stay? No, it didn't stay on the scale. All right, maybe that was a little too much. All right, so I decide I want that to stay in as my symbol. We'll go ahead. Now this was saved outside of the sheet format. We're on the top level, so it's movable. So do watch for that. So let's see if it has any problem with it being at that level. Save as. Drawing template, back to our location. So if it keeps going back to that location enough, and I'm doing this a lot, I typically put in a shortcut that says, find your way back over here so I don't have to keep navigating away from it. Alright, so let's see if there's any issue with the block. Alright, so at that level, no. Let's X and edit the sheet format. We'll place it in the on the sheet format so that it doesn't keep getting where we can move it. And we'll rebuild and save as one more time. Oops. Nope, not blocks, templates. Okay, so that being saved in the template, then we go back and do our test and say, okay, I'm happy with that. And then I go to insert it, the next sheet. It's not going to be there because it's at the template level, not at the sheet format level. All right, so it's that separation of having access to it here with that base information in it versus it being embedded in the sheet format. So let's go ahead and get rid of sheet 2 and work back through. We're going to go ahead and save as the other sheet format. Back to the location. And it picks up, so let's go ahead and save it. Close it. Alright, so we've inserted our block symbol, and we're going to insert the next one. And then there is the warning. There are blocks with duplicate names on other sheets. You can use already existing blocks or rename the new blocks. Do you want to rename? No, go ahead and use the existing. But it's going to show me that every time, even though I know that it's there and even though I know it's the exact same block. So I don't know what the solution is to that.
Can't suppress it somewhere.
Well, it's one of those. Depending on what the intent of the block was, I'd go ahead and explode it and make it line geometry again, and our standard object geometry, and then it doesn't care anymore. All right, but from the block side of things, if it's so maybe this isn't the best application of the block, but it's the one I think about or I can readily kind of identify with. So maybe the block is something specific to the industry or something that isn't already in one of the symbols that we can just go and insert where it's needed. Okay. So next time we're going to take the blocks over into the assembly as the layout and start looking at the landing gear assembly. So I'll send you guys the links to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and try under the properties. There's the C program data location. That is the one that it's calling was the landscape. And then we're going to change it over to that one. Still warning me about my block. But let's go ahead and save as back to the drawing template. And since it's the references to the sheet format, Really shouldn't have to reference it to itself. All right, so close it, new, add new. Oh, and I'm still stuck on that one. So let me go back and turn the option off. Drawings, show, and no. No, I don't want to rename. That worked. So yes, under the properties, that has to be that location has to be the next sheet that you actually want. All right, so thank you for that.